and given its political crisis at the present time. I wanted to begin today by thanking you all for joining us. We're going to have ideas for you toward the end of this hour about what you can do. But I thought it appropriate that we begin hearing from Lebanon's ambassador to the United Nations to understand exactly what is being done by the international community to begin with. And so Ambassador Amal Mudallali, who has been a friend of mine for decades when she was a reporter here in Lebanon, and then ran the office for Prime Minister Rafiq Hariri. And after his brutal assassination, came to the States and was here for a number of years working for Lebanon, but then became Lebanon's ambassador to the United Nations. Amal, thank you so much for joining us. And could you give us a bit of an idea of what is happening at the UN and in the international community right now to provide the immediate relief that Lebanon and its people need?
Thank you very much, Jim. Thank you for having me and for having this for Lebanon and for everything you all are doing and the Lebanese Americans are doing for Lebanon. Before I start talking about what we're doing at the UN, I just want to give you an idea the magnitude of this and the scale of this tragedy in Lebanon, because as you said, it comes at the heels of a huge financial crisis where people were suffering for months. It comes in the midst of a pandemic. And people are exhausted, and then this explosion comes. And if you see the pictures of downtown Beirut, it's just heartbreaking because it looks like pictures of 1976 and 1978 when during the civil war. I mean, downtown Beirut is like destroyed. The problem with this and the magnitude is so bad is that the area that was hit, it's the heart of Beirut. This is really the heart of Beirut. The port area, Ashrafiyeh, downtown Beirut, Gemmaisi. This is the business district. This is the nightlife district. This is the historic part of Beirut. This is the restaurant district. This is everything you want in Beirut, you can find it there. And when you hit the heart, that's what's really, really now hard for the Lebanese to take, because it took for years and decades to be able to rebuild that downtown Beirut. And now downtown Beirut needs to be rebuilt. Who is going to rebuild it? Where's the money going to come from at this time where everybody is suffering around the world, not only in Lebanon? So that's the tragedy. The other thing is, and that's why the need is so big, is that institutions were destroyed, hospitals were destroyed. So where do you start? It's a huge, huge problem. So what we are doing is we're trying to talk to the international community to get aid. And the French are going to have President Macron is going to have a conference on Sunday in France to bring the donors and see what they can do to be able to help. On our side, we're trying to do we're having a meeting on Monday in the United Nations. It's going to be headed by the Secretary General of the United Nations. It's called by OCHA, the Humanitarian Organization of the United Nations. It's going to be attended by all member states, and I get some indications some Arab foreign ministers might attend. So it's going to be a very important meeting to engage the amount of support we're going to be able to get, tangible support, because since this happened, it's heartwarming for me the amount of goodwill that we had, the support, the solidarity from around the world. Living under the pandemic for 6 months now, you feel disconnected and you forget that how close people can be together. And since this happened, the number of people who came across and who came through and they helped and they said they are ready to do something for Lebanon. It's just heartwarming but mind-boggling too, how much goodwill there is for this country. So we're going to see if this goodwill will be translated into some aid, because we have priorities now. And the first priority is the medical, because people are, as you said, we have 137 people killed and 5,000 people injured. So we have to try to find the medical equipment and medicine, all kinds of things. Shelter is very important. Food security is going to be a big problem because of the wheat silos that were destroyed. The port is not working, so it's going to be difficult now to to move things from ports and Sidon and Tripoli. The logistics are going to be difficult a little bit, so it will slow things down. So we have the need is humongous. There's so much need. So it's very important for our community in the United States to coordinate with everybody and see what are the priorities and what are the needs, so we can help organize ourselves to help on what's needed. So for the first stage, it's going to be the emergency aid and whatever, but then we have to think of the most important and the most difficult one, basically the rebuilding and the reconstructing and putting things back together. And that's going to be the difficult one. And I urge people and Lebanese Americans everywhere, you have to tap into your community and see what's the strength in your community that you can do, what does your state do, and maybe that you can use that and connect to Lebanon to try to help in that sector. So we become, we organize ourselves and think that would be very, very important for us to get. And so other than that, we're just waiting to see what will happen in Paris on Sunday, and see how much can the international community can help. But the aid is very important, not only to keep people alive. It's very important to keep them in Lebanon too, because you will hear from others today on this webinar that people lost hope, and people are talking about leaving. And actually, I have to tell you, on the port, there is a statue. I'm sure most of you have seen it. A statue of the Lebanese immigrant standing and looking to the sea. This statue is gone now. It was destroyed by that symbol. We don't want that symbol to become the Lebanese now, that they will leave, they will get out. We want the Lebanese to stay. We have to help them to stay and to rebuild, because otherwise there is nobody there to rebuild. And to help them rebuild is not sending aid in terms of food and whatever. We have to help them build sustainably and build better and stay home and make that country a great country again. Thank you.
Amal, a couple of questions. When you're talking about the city had been rebuilt and now is gone, who's going to rebuild it? I can remember when I'd go visit your boss when he was prime minister, he would, each time I'd go, he'd show me pictures and say, we're rebuilding the city block by block, and did. At one point I told him that I was hearing from people that not enough was being spent in other parts of the country. And he used the expression, he said, if the heart doesn't beat, the blood doesn't flow. So the heart's got to be rebuilt. You asked the question, who's going to build it now? And the question that many Lebanese are asking is, how can we trust the government with the resources when they've been so dysfunctional up till now? And President Macron made issued an ultimatum about reform. Is there, from your sense, and I know this is a political question, maybe not one for the ambassador, but I have to ask you, do you think that there will be the political will in the country to make the kinds of reforms that will be necessary for the international community and have the confidence to provide the support that Lebanon so desperately needs?
Jim, everybody is saying Lebanon now before August 4 is different from after August 4. And I really believe that. I think people are, nobody is going to be able to survive if they think with the same way we thought before and act the same way we acted before. So the hope is that now people will feel the urgency more, and then they will move on the requirements that the international community has, and we start doing the reforms and we start moving forward, because I think people understand now there's no other way out. There's no other way forward except by doing that. So I'm hoping that things will be better.
A question about the places to send. I know that there's an Arab American effort that Ed is going to talk about, that the Task Force on Lebanon is spearheading. We'll talk about that in a bit. But we've sent out calls for the Lebanese Red Cross for support. We've had some notices from people who've said that they've been trying to send to the Lebanese Red Cross, but it can't go through. Does it go to the Lebanese Red Cross or the International Red Cross? Do you know the venues on that? I'm sorry to I've gone from a political question to a very mundane question.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay. Thank you very much for everything that the Lebanese American community is doing. Really, it's amazing. No, whoever is asking me, I'm directing them to the Red Cross in Lebanon. And I was in touch with them yesterday. I gave some people their address and their phone numbers, and they're talking. I think the Lebanese Red Cross is the right one to do. And even if you send it to the International Red Cross and say this is for the Lebanese Red Cross, it will reach them. And the head of the Red Cross, International Red Cross, is a Lebanese anyway. Robert Mardini, he's a fantastic president or chairman. So I think the Red Cross is the best way to do it, because they're organized on the ground. They're doing an amazing job on the ground. They're really, really good. So I think if you need numbers, I can give you numbers. I can give you the number of and the name of the head of the Lebanese Red Cross, and you can get in touch with them. There
are family members who've wanted to send support to their families, but there's this issue of the dollar and the banks. What can be done? How can people get assistance directly to their families if they're so interested in doing it?
Yeah, I understand that they have a system now that fresh money can be sent and that can be given to people in dollars. So they have to check which banks, are doing this, and to double check before they send the money. But I understand that you have to open a new account there. So the relatives have to open a new account, and then the money can come there and they give it to them in dollars.
This could I ask you, if it's not too much, if someone in your office could provide us with that assistance, the details on that, it would be great.
Yeah, I will do my best, but this is something that the embassy in Washington has it better than me.
Okay, seriously. We'll check with them.
Because this is what they deal with. We don't deal with that.
And then get it to to people. I had another question from someone about the independent investigation that's being called for. Mm-hmm. I understand. I've read some reports that there's some people already arrested. I don't know what that means. But the question is, where is there an investigation? Is it too early for us to assume what it will constitute? Will it be independent and meet the criteria that people are demanding, that it be truly independent, or what can you tell us about it? Do you know anything about it already?
Well, what I know is what I read in the newspapers. There are the four former prime ministers called for an independent investigation, international and Arab investigation. There are lots of people in the country are calling for that, but the government already established an investigative committee, and they said within 5 days they will put out the results. So let's wait for 5 days and see what the results are. And if people are not satisfied, I don't know what they're going to come up with. But let's give them a chance to listen to what they want to say, and then you can judge. But it's not easy to judge beforehand before they come up with something. The problem is there's a deficit of trust in the country, and that's affecting everything.
Another question about aid directly to hospitals. I know that the international community is sending it. Some field hospitals have arrived, and others are sending more. Are there specific hospitals that are on the front line that need direct support? Can you identify them for us? One, and two. Then, I'd like to also ask you if you could identify for us the countries that have so far reached out and sent direct assistance.
In terms of assistance to hospitals, I am biased towards public hospitals, government hospitals, because these are the ones who have no resources. They are already, short on everything, in equipment and medicine, whatever. For instance, the Hariri, not because it's named Hariri, but it's the Hariri Hospital, is the only one in the country that's doing the COVID. And it's a public hospital, and this serves all Beirut. This one deserves to be served, and also hospitals in the different regions of the country, in rural areas. These where the need is very large, and the money is scarce, and people are poor. So if you can pick hospitals, one in Tripoli or in Akkar or in Bekaa or in the south, whatever, try to help public hospitals, because private hospitals, they have their own resources, they have their own money, whatever. You try to help public hospitals.
Okay. And the way to do that is directly through the hospital?
Through the hospital, or maybe you can send it through the Red Cross or through NGOs. You can, but you have to choose somebody who is reliable.
One last question, and that is with regard to the countries that have so far stepped up and been provided significant direct assistance. Who's on the list of those countries that have helped?
Yeah, there's so many countries now are sending. The Gulf countries, all of them have sent planes full of supplies and medical supplies and help and stuff like that. Really, most of the Gulf countries, Kuwait, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, you just name them. All of them have sent. Algeria sent, Turkey sent, Armenia sent, Russia sent, America is sending. I mean, it's amazing. The goodwill and the support is really heartwarming. Everybody's sending. I don't want to forget anybody and get in trouble, but lots of countries are sending. Seriously, I don't have the list with me.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. I just want to say one last thing, if you don't mind. Just
sure.
Today, looking at downtown Beirut, the video and how it's destroyed, it reminded me of the Greek Sisyphus, who's condemned to carry that boulder above the hill, and then it comes down, and he keeps all his life going up and down. It feels like we in Lebanon doing the same thing. We rebuild, we work hard, whatever, and then suddenly in one shot you lose everything and you start all over again. I think we have to start thinking in a more sustainable way how to have permanent peace. We cannot continue being Sisyphus and carrying our border up and down and rebuilding and destroying and building and destroying. So I think the Lebanese American community has a big role to try to help that this democracy that is enshrined and it works in a good way, so that Lebanon can see peace for more than 10 years, because every 10 years we start all over again. Thank you.
Just one last question about someone asked donations beyond in money or in kind. Are there other forms of support that people can give to the country right now?
Yes, actually, I was going to say that, and I forgot. You need technical assistance in different areas. So whatever your expertise is, if you think you can help, it doesn't have to be money. It can be any expertise that you have in any field that you can donate it and you can do it. Like, I just talked to the United Nations Environmental Program, and I said we need help to clean environment because of the amount of smoke and rubble that came out. Beirut now is under so much environmental impact. So things like that, whatever your expertise is, maybe you should volunteer and go and help, for a month or two in trying to build somewhere, or try to help a village have a water irrigation or something. You can really be creative and try to help in things like that. Like, one of the programs that I'm trying to get, and we don't have money to do it, is there's so many young kids, teenagers, who don't have school anymore, and we want to teach them coding. So maybe you can set up some program where you can do it from here and teach these kids coding, so they can find jobs. So these kinds of things people can help. Yeah, volunteer your time.
Thank you, Amal. I think Jim is trying to secure our next speaker real quick.
Thank you.
If I may, while we still have you, there was a very concrete question about accepting packages independently by individuals through cargo.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Okay. I don't know about these things, Maya, because it's not my expertise.
Understandable.
You have to ask the embassy about that. I really don't have any experience in packages.
Okay, understandable.
Thank you. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm back. I just we had a difficulty with the connection in Lebanon. Thank you so much, Ambassador.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. And so the best of luck for you.
Thank you. We now have Paula is joining us. Thank you. Paula is joining us from Lebanon. Paula, how are you?
Hi, Jim. How are you?
I'm okay. Thank you so much for taking time out. I know how just awful busy you must be, and I've seen the pictures of you out on the street with people.
Yes.
I want to break the conversation into two parts. The first is I'd like to first hear what you're seeing on the street, and then I want to get into some political questions with you because I know that these are issues that are near and dear to your heart. First, tell me what you're seeing out there, because one of the things that struck me when President Macron went yesterday was how hungry people were for someone to pay attention. And then at the same time, how no Lebanese leaders were there. None of the government people were there. You were, but they weren't. Talk to me a little about that and what you're seeing and hearing from people on the street.
Well, Jim, the devastation is something that I've never seen before. People need empathy. They need someone to tell them that it's okay, even if it's not okay. So people also needed to feel that someone cares, and this is why Macron was received so overwhelmingly with people so nicely. So I'm sorry, I started at 6 a.m. today, and I promised you to join with a video, but you don't want that. So what I'm trying to tell you that, I don't know how to describe it. This is not something that you can tell. There's no word to describe how you can feel how people are in need to, not only for, all kind of furniture, mattresses, food, everything, but they need love, they need compassion, they need empathy. And so that's it.
Yeah. Now, yesterday when I saw the video of you on CNN, in addition to the compassion, there was also anger at the disaster that came before the disaster and the disaster still to come.
Yes.
One of the things that Macron said was that he was going to issue a new political initiative for Lebanon and make it into an ultimatum. If it wasn't done by September 1st, coming back. One of the things that struck me about that and troubled me was that.
Hello.
Yes. Hi. Can you hear me? Hello. Oh, Paula. I'm sorry. We're not hearing. I think we lost her. I'm going to try her again. Yes, I'm sorry. I can't. We couldn't hear you.
Hello.
Yes, we couldn't hear you, but maybe we can do it this way through the speaker. Maya, can you hear her?
Yes, we can hear. Go ahead.
Okay, Paula, you're now on. You're on my phone, so that we're going to do it that way. There was so much anger that I heard coming from you and from people on the streets about the need for immediate political reform, or else international support would not be coming through. And so many of the questions that we've already gotten from people are about, how do we trust them to have an independent investigation? How do we trust them to make reforms? How do we believe that they finally got it and know that they've got to do something to end the dysfunction and the corruption and the threat that comes from a militia that is that if it doesn't get its way, takes to the streets? I mean, how do we know that lessons have been learned and that people are ready to turn a corner? And then, isn't it tragic and sad and ironic in a way that it's France who's making the demand and not, they're echoing the demand of the street from last October, and that the Lebanese government still doesn't seem to get it?
Well, Jim, the entire universe is asking this bunch of thieves, crooks, I don't know what to call them, this mafia, to do these reforms. But people should know that these reforms, they come on their expense, because they are the ones, putting the public sector, people who don't work, they just, do mass bribes every now and then, and give them jobs that we pay, the Lebanese people pay, just to get their votes. They do this, clientelism all the time in everything, in politics. And electricity, this is a sector. Imagine after 30 years, the end of the Civil War, we have no electricity. These are the reforms. They're not asking, I don't know, something unimaginable. These are the very simple things that every single Lebanese is asking. And these simple reforms, 4 years after this new mandate for Michel Aoun, who promised so much, who promised many things, nothing happened. Nothing happened. The country is on its knees, even before the Chernobyl that happened in Beirut. So now people are very angry. They're taking the streets tomorrow. I think it's very important to stay in the streets until they're gone, all of them. I'm not going to continue. I'm going to resign, like everyone knows by now. Or just, I'm talking with some MPs, some friends, not to be resigning alone, to resign with others. I'm asking them to resign, not to continue with this political cast, despite the fact that we were doing so much. So this is what's happening. Lebanon is at a turning point, and we don't know where we're going, but anything is better than the statu quo that we had for all these years. Enough is enough. They did nothing. They stole the country. I mean, you all know the story, but the thing that everyone should be working on is a good opposition, voices, a movement of brave people who are willing to face them and to tell them, go away. We can run this country much better than you do. Someone asked me today, do you have the political know-how to run a country? And I was like, oh, this is a know-how? This country was run by political know-how? Please get me someone who knows nothing, because you can't do worse than this. So I really don't know what to say.
Do you have any hope?
Anger and it was during the day at night.
Yeah.
I'm still angry, but I have no energy anymore. We're starting at 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
We're not sleeping, and I didn't say hi to everyone with you on Zoom. So hi, I'm sorry. Excuse me.
Oh, listen, thank you so much for taking time out to do this. I want to just ask you, though, whether you think that the Macron initiative will actually produce results. No,
I don't think so. Now they're looking for scapegoats. They will dispose, some of their men, the weak ones. And they're trying to get away with, few people that they are responsible of all the failure. So they started with that guy who's running the board and the customs general manager. I think that guy should be in prison very long time ago. However, I'm not sure he will stay in prison. I'm not sure, like in 2 days, he'll go back to his house. And we've seen this before many times. Whenever there's a problem, there's a crisis, they find a scapegoat, and sometimes for a day or two, sometimes not even arrested. And we're talking here about some employees. No minister resigns. No, just some employees. So this political caste had the whole ecosystem with it. And it won't be easy to remove them. But I think for once we are on the right track.
The right track in what way? That you have more people supporting?
In getting rid of this enemy who's like a cancer in the country, getting rid of mercenaries, of international interference in our affairs. This is, I think, for once, maybe we can dream of a different Lebanon, of a better Lebanon. free of the sectarian system that did nothing but failure after failure. And
my dear, when I hear you,
I had the impression that the Zoom was on Sunday. I don't know why.
Oh no!
I got mixed up between today and Sunday.
But let me tell you, when I hear you, I think of Gibran's.
Yeah.
You have your Lebanon, I have my Lebanon, and I thank you for echoing that vision of a very different country with its people and its genuineness that actually has been subordinated to this system. Thank you. I'm not going to keep you any longer, Paula.
Thank you so much, Jim. And I hope to talk again.
Take care and God bless you.
Thank you so much for everyone who was here. I'm sorry it was short.
No. Thank you so much for joining us. I know it's been difficult for you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. So there we are. What the international community is doing, and then a sense from, I should tell you that Paula was elected, she's the parliamentarian from Beirut, and she is an independent who, as you can hear from her, has been fighting against the sectarian system and the corruption in the country. I think she rightly so is overcome by both the devastation she's seeing on the street and also the frustration of people for months and months and months now, wanting a government that could function. But under the weight of the COVID-19 and the 1 out of every 5 people in the country being refugees, the resources being strained, and a genuine economic collapse, and a government that has not been able to come up with a reform package at all that works. There's a lot of frustration. And then this, as I said, a disaster before the disaster and a disaster yet to follow. And so I know that our hearts and minds are with the country and wanting to see how we can help. Let me turn for a moment here to Ed Gabriel from the American Task Force on Lebanon to talk to us a bit about some of what is happening on their part for Lebanon. And Ed, take it away for a few minutes. Thanks.
Jim, thank you very much for this partnership more than everything else. It's been great working with you this week and making sure that we strengthen the voice of the community together. And I have to tell you, in talking to people in Lebanon, I've found that what we're witnessing now is an emotional outburst that I haven't seen before in my years of working in Lebanon. It seems like it's not only a hopeless kind of emotion, but they've had it and they're angry, much like the last 2 speakers have talked about. And I liked what Amal had to say about a pre and post August 4th kind of feeling. In that regard, maybe I can outline a few things that we're up to and really put a plea out to the community today. It's a very timely time to talk to the community. And again, I want to thank you and Maya and AAI for taking the lead on making sure that we have this opportunity. Let me tell you that we have been working at the highest levels of government for the last few days, to try to bring an awareness to them that Lebanon needs help. It's like a natural disaster, and think of it like that. Think of it in those terms. And without international help, it's going to be very difficult for them to make it through this episode. Let me talk first about like short-term kinds of things that we're working on for the immediate problem, but also maybe inform our public here about the longer-term things that the community is going together on. The most important thing I want to bring up today is the fact that we've been approached by the United States government to help bring the community together to find medicines that very bad need of, so that we can send them to Lebanon. the United States government is willing to put together an airlift in the coming days that will be a people-to-people exchange from the Lebanese community here to Lebanon. Yesterday, we reached out to a whole number of people in our network, and I have to say that thanks to one of our partners, Jean Abinader, who's on top of this effort for us, and Manel Saab, and other people who have joined this effort from across the country, we've probably located already an airplane load of medicine and other specific items that have been asked for. We're going to work with the United States government to try to expedite that. But I would say to our community today that if you have some way of helping us on the medicine front, the most important thing right now is medicine. Please get in touch with us at info@atfl.org, and we'll try to put you to work in making sure that our community speaks with a loud voice in terms of these things. We've also are putting together, Jim, a humanitarian letter of which you're a signatory, along with more than 100 organizations across the country are delivering aid to Lebanon. So there are existing organizations that are delivering aid, charitable organizations, church organizations across the board, all multi-confessional, non-denominational, and other kinds of organizations. That letter is going to come together, signed by 110 organizations, and be delivered to the State Department very shortly. If you have an interest to make sure your organization is included, again, let us know at info@atfl.org, and we'll be sure to try to get you on that letter. But we're trying to get the whole country to speak with one voice in focusing the United States' attention on food aid through the wheat program, the PL 480 wheat program, which provides tens of millions of dollars in subsidized wheat to countries in need. It can also be turned into sales for NGOs to then deliver services. So one way for us to push for immediate tens of millions of dollars, again, will be the PL 480 letter. And we're hoping that this group of 110 organizations, which will speak with one voice, will really make a difference. And we hope that these organizations will continue to be together. We will look at the possibility of that becoming a network of like organizations for the future. The next thing I would talk about is a house letter, which Jim and others, I should mention Rebecca Abu Shadid, who's working all morning. I want to call out for her, and Eddie Ayoub and Jay Gazelle, as well as AAI and Jim in particular. We've got 86 signatures on a house letter, bipartisan, going to Secretary Pompeo today with the same message to make sure that we get this thing done immediately. A Senate letter in the works, a bipartisan Senate letter as well. So those are the immediate things that we're working on. I should also just mention in closing one last important thing, and that is about 2 weeks ago, we issued, along with the Middle East Institute, a long-term policy paper. So in addition to this immediate need that we all have together, some of the political considerations that we're trying to look at and economic problems that we're looking at is contained in this paper. It was co-convened by the Middle East Institute and the American Task Force of Lebanon, signed by 8 U.S. Lebanon experts. And the way I would describe it is there's a conditional basket, so that we speak to some of our constituents in this call. There's a conditional basket on the one hand and an unconditional basket on the other as part of these recommendations. In the conditional basket, these experts are basically saying enough is enough. We've thrown a lot of billions of dollars at this government, former governments, and unless there's reforms, we do not see the international community blinking and saying, here, take more money without reforms. So that's the conditional basket. On the unconditional side, we're saying, look, America has to respond, lead the international community when it comes to humanitarian aid, anti-poverty, refugees, and the Lebanese Armed Forces, which is a standing, reputable organization in the country, aid to civil society, to the universities, the American-styled universities. They all need help right now. That should be unconditional, and we're pushing for that as well. So I throw that out as the last point, Jim, so that maybe we'd have an input into the political discussion.
Thank you, Ed. And there's no doubt that the work you've done is significant, and that those areas you define as conditional, unconditional. I think that what we're hearing right now is that from Macron and others, and again, I think that it is both sad and also angering that the demand for reform come from France, that actually set up the sectarian system to begin with, and that the Lebanese themselves can't get a handle on it, because the very people that we turn to make the change in Lebanon are the problem themselves. As Paula said, it's a systemic problem that needs to be addressed. And so one of the things that people were chanting at Macron in the streets were, don't give money to them, because we don't know how they'll use it. So this idea of people to people becomes very critical. Institution to institution becomes very critical. And I think it's important. I want to just add one thing, though, that an additional letter that Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib has sent, that we're also hoping to get a lot of support for, is that a letter about deferred enforced departure. There's a lot of Lebanese in the country right now who are in danger of visas expiring, visitors who need to go home, et cetera. Tourists, it's the summer, people have left to come here and visit family, et cetera. The question is that we really need to support their ability to stay here until the situation changes in Lebanon. So we're going to be looking for support for that. Do we have Ahmed Shabani on?
We do. Ahmed is with us. We can.
Jim,
okay.
Can I?
Yeah.
Can I make 2 points to what you said? One, on the humanitarian letter, for people that write in, we'll make sure that Leslie Tuma from our organization is who's in charge of this humanitarian letter, the 110 organization letter, gets back to you as she's spearheading that cause. And let me just say one thing on the Macron démarche last week. I think it's coordinated with an American message that will be forthcoming in the next couple of days, and it will be very similar to the Macron message. Thank you.
Let me get Ahmed in. Ahmed?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you come from what is the Lebanese American capital. You want to just tell us a little about what's going on there and what you guys are doing?
Well, first I want to thank you, Jim, and thank you, Maya, for all the efforts. I do like this format to inform our community members of what's happening and finding ways to help our Lebanese brothers, I guess, and sisters back home. So on our end here, we've been getting quite a bit of calls and from across the region and locally, and asking us about ways of helping. And so we have launched a group of us, and we will continue to maybe inform you when it was all established, a help Save Lebanon Fund. That will be go live next week, and this will be directed by a group of us, and nationally, about 20 of us. They will be collecting primary funds, which is probably easier because, as Ed was mentioning, I mean, if you want to send any other means of supplies, which I am happy to hear that Ed is arranging, that the U.S. government would be helping in transporting some of this medical emergency supplies. On our end, we would like to, our format is a little different. First, we want to start raising funds to allocate it to local organizations that's really working on the ground. Where we can see the funds are directly impacting the people in need and focusing on emergency shelter, food, and medical supplies. And as we go beyond that step, hopefully we will be soliciting larger corporations for larger funding to put people, organizations on the ground. So this is our effort now. It is in the works, and it should be going live early next week. And this is where we stand now. Once we are aware of once we become fully prepared, we will be connecting with everybody around us for assistance.
Thank you, Ahmed. Ahmed's from the Arab American Chamber of Commerce in Michigan, and a longtime community activist and leader.
Thank you.
When you get more information on that, look, we're going to be doing another call like this, hopefully in a week and every week thereafter until this crisis passes. And I do want to see if we can get a little earlier in the day and get Paula, Yacoubian, and a few others when they're not up for more than 16, 18 hours out in the streets doing work. I want to thank Ed. I want to thank Ahmed. I want to thank Ambassador Mudallali. And of course, I want to thank Paula, who's not with us right now. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in and urge you to support the initiatives that Ed has described. And when Ahmed Shabani's Save Lebanon Fund, which is near and dear to my heart because we started Save Lebanon back in 1982 when West Beirut was being destroyed and brought wounded children here. It was a remarkable project, and we wept for Beirut then, and we weep for Beirut now. Again, thank you to all of the folks who participated, all of you who watch us on Zoom and watch us on Facebook. And we'll be back to you next week with an update and more of what you can do to help Lebanon in its hour of need. And I just close by saying that I hope you get it, that I understand the need for reform in Lebanon. And that is an issue that we will not let go of. Pressure from America and Americans and Lebanese Americans for Lebanon to get its act together. But at the same time, when the country's bleeding, as difficult as it is to be able to find the roots in, we got to find a way to help now. The reform issues, they come, and we've got to address them. Should have addressed them 3 decades ago, should have addressed them a decade ago, should have addressed them last month, but we're going to address them. But at the same time, people are dying, people are bleeding, people are homeless, people are choking from air they can't breathe, and people want answers, and we've got to help now. And so thank you, Ed, and thank you, Ahmed, for what you're doing. And we're going to stay with it. So we'll see you all next week. And we'll be on top of this and send you updates as we go forward so that all of you are aware of what we're doing. If you want any more information from us, write to us at aaiusa.org. You can either write to me, Zogby, Zogby, at aaiusa.org, or of course you can use the info at ATFL that Ed described. So thank you all again, and we'll see you next week. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.